appearing for the very first time in these new updated studios. Pretty nice, Ryan,
Yeah,
huh?
they're pretty snappy.
Welcome, and also wearing a lot of purple for the first time, coordinated.
Yeah, it's a little pre-Easter celebration.
Yes, but not planned. Welcome
Right.
to What's My House Worth, a show that examines the real estate scene in Needham. My name is Rob Tickton. This is Ryan McDonnell. We are going to examine all the sales for the month of January in Needham. Did I mention we're with Hawthorne Real Estate?
No,
Ryan?
you didn't.
We're with Hawthorne Real Estate. We provide brokerage services in town. We also build homes in Needham. So the way we're going to start the show, what do you think, Ryan? The way we always do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. It's ice damming season, so why change it up?
Yeah, good point. Let's do the January sales data and take a look at the gross kind of macro look at how January kind of stacked up. And Ryan, as you look at that data, what's the first thing that jumps out at you?
Well, not a lot of sales are jumping out at us, unfortunately. So we only have 11 homes to talk about today. So gear up for an in-depth discussion of those.
Yeah, we're going to dig a little deeper than usual. Is that possible?
Possibly. We had 28 sales in December, so definitely a dip, but not an unexpected one, given that January is not usually a high month of sales. So our average list price holding pretty steady, just over $1 million, with an average sale price dipping a little bit from over $1 million last month to the high nines at about $976 this month. The percentages, so your sale price is a percentage of list and original list holding steady at 98 and 97 respectively,
Yep.
which to me still indicates a really strong real estate market, and I think everything that we're going to talk about in the rest of the show will also contribute to that theme.
I mean, it's such a tight kind of range there, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
always 98, 99, almost 100%. Of all the numbers, that one seems to vary the least. Would you
Right,
agree?
and I think it's just, it's a product of obviously strength, but people know that you still have to list appropriately. So if you're in a strong market, if you're listing responsibly, you should be at those numbers, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, because there's enough demand out there that you're going to get people in there to make offers, and if you're priced right, you're going to see strong numbers there. The days on market also still strong. It's 67 days, down from 73 last month, but that's also positive.
Yeah, and the 18 homes sold last year this time, but the number that jumps off the page for me was the $354 sales price per square
I
foot.
conveniently skipped over. for some
Yeah,
reason.
well, that's because you left it for me, hopefully.
Right.
But when you talk about, I believe that's the highest we've seen, and I feel like that's kind of become a common theme a little bit about talking about the highest sales price per square foot that we've seen. But 354 is a number you want to remember, especially when we get to the back end of the show and we see what the list price per square foot is. And it's kind of an interesting relationship between those two numbers. But $354 per square foot, a very, very healthy number, and getting into territory that we have not seen.
Some would say staggering.
Staggering is a word I would say that's appropriate. The trailing 6 months is going to be next up, and it takes a look at kind of how things have progressed over the last 6 months. And that's an interesting graph, isn't it, Ryan?
Yeah,
It
that's
almost looks like the Big Dipper
Right.
on its head.
one of the dippers. I mean, the spike in December sort of skews it a little bit. That the November and the January is not, not unlike what we would expect.
Mm-hmm.
So it does, as the weather turns and the holidays near, people stop looking for houses. That's why you see a couple months later, the low numbers. Like we may see low numbers in February also.
Right.
Which is not by any means, a glimpse as to what we would expect in the spring. I think we're going to see staggering numbers in the spring.
Agreed. And I would say that under normal circumstances, some people might think that the kind of winter that we've had here in town might also have some kind of adverse effect or maybe a slow start to the spring market. But what we've been seeing is that the weather seems to have zero effect on this market.
People are braving the elements.
They are. It's just become yet another obstacle of the many obstacles that already seem to exist.
It really shows
of getting into the Needham market.
the resolve of New Englanders.
It really does. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
So how does January compare when we look at previous Januaries over the past few years? And nothing too great about that.
No,
right?
yeah. It's
for all that
just-
we talk about how great things are.
Right. Well, I think when you're talking about numbers that are under 20, like the timing, the odd circumstances surrounding one or two sales in any given year has a really significant effect on the month as a whole. I mean, you don't know what necessarily contributed. I mean, we can go back and look at our show from last January. What contributed to the 18 last year that we only got 7 the year before and 11 this year? But all it takes is one or two closings that get pushed back or that get accelerated or whatever, and it totally skews a month when you have a small sample size.
Well, I'd be willing to bet, if I remember correctly, that when we had the 18 sales last year, we said this is a sign of things to come. This is going to be a really strong spring market. And I would venture to say, even though there were 11 sales in January as compared to 18 last January, that this spring market will be stronger than the one the year before. So almost has kind of no impact or doesn't give you any kind of inkling as to what is in store for the spring. But I think we both agree that it's going to be a very strong spring.
Yeah, I think the only thing holding back this spring would be just people putting their house on the market.
Exactly, inventory. Yeah. But I think the word is starting to get out that it's probably not a terrible time to put your house on the market.
We've been screaming it from this podium, actually the one upstairs for the last few months, but from this venue for months now.
Yeah.
List.
And we'll see if people have been listening.
Right.
So with all this in mind, time to dive into the 11 sales that took place in Needham per MLS, that's single family sales. And we're going to start the way we always do. How's that, Ryan? How do we always start?
We start with the lowest sale of the month.
And then work our way up to the big seller, as we used to call it some time ago. Back when we had different graphics and a different studio look.
And we're wearing different colored shirts.
Yeah, that's true. 19 Riverside Street is the first house on our list. This is a house that, well, it's a pretty small lot.
Yeah, it is. It's in fact
downright tiny.
It's tiny. It's under 4,000 square feet. And interestingly enough, in the last 5 years, there's only been 2 sales of homes with this size lots. And what's more interesting about that?
What's more interesting about that?
It's the same house.
Oh, really? Twice?
Right. Yeah, 19 Riverside flipped. It sold earlier in 2013 for $356, was updated and sold now here for $535. So, I mean, good for 19 Riverside. You're selling twice on a lot that's 3,400 square feet. That's pretty good.
Well, this has obviously been purchased by somebody who doesn't have much interest in landscaping.
No.
Right? But, you know, what's interesting is at an open house over this past weekend, there do seem to be quite a few buyers coming into this market who are coming from Beacon Hill, who are coming from South Boston, the South End, who don't really have much of an interest of a yard. Yeah. They're not used to it. They don't want to deal with it. And so maybe this is the case here. Maybe the person that bought this just, they don't need the yard for the dog or the kids or whatever else.
I mean, you're in Needham in the 5s in a home that's been updated. And if, like you said, if you're not someone who's, you know, a green thumb, maybe not having to maintain a property is something that appeals to you. And in this case, it did.
Quick yes or no, do you consider yourself a green thumb?
I consider myself somebody who likes to take care of my property, sure. Okay. I'm not outside harvesting anything.
All right, a simple yes would have done. So 19 Riverside sells for $535 on an original list of $619 after 94 days on market, which is one of the longer days on market that we'll see. 156 Woodbine Circle is next up on the list. Now we're getting into a little bit more of a residential area, not quite as close to 128 like Riverside, although it is fairly close.
Yep,
but
it is.
You know, convenient to 128. It's not right on top of it
That's
necessarily.
how you'd sell it.
Yeah, and that's probably how it got sold this time around. It seemed to be priced very well, wouldn't you say, at $699?
Yeah, high sixes. I mean, this neighborhood is I think gaining some traction. It's one of the things that we hear about. You know, the people live there, really like it. I mean, it's similar to the Livingston Circle neighborhood where people who live there just rave about it. I mean, this is a spot that I think you can, as a buyer, find some value. It's in the Elliott School District. A lot of the homes are starting to turn over, to get redone. There's some new construction in the neighborhood. So this one, it's on a nice lot. I mean, you're 1,500 square foot. You're pretty straightforward split level listing. It's over 10,000 square foot lot. You know, I think this is probably a good buy.
Yeah, and a new boiler to boot. You talk about these communities that are very tight knit and really like kind of the spot that they're in, and these are the people that, you know, word gets out, and they, you know, friends of friends, they hear about this neighborhood, and everybody gets along, and it's a great spot, and block party and everything else, and so in many ways it kind of sells itself, and there are people kind of waiting almost kind of to get in.
Yeah,
if you
it doesn't
will.
hurt.
And so that certainly applies. 54 Carroll Road is located in what neighborhood?
Oh, this would be the Olin Woods.
Olin Woods neighborhood, as it's really starting to gain some traction.
Right.
Another community that people I think
was going to say the same thing.
That applies. This is a house that has a little bit of history as far as the sales history.
Yep, it turned over, or it sold a year or two ago.
Yeah, it was, I think, a few more than that. But
And it had a pool that doesn't have anymore.
That's right. So the people that bought this, it was actually in 2009 for $524, put a little bit of money into this house, both inside and out. Like you said, got rid of the pool.
Nice fence.
Nice fence, a lot of landscaping front and back. And the inside, too, did quite a few updates. But what's interesting about this house is a year ago, this listing, 54 Carroll, was on Zillow as a make me move. And you know what the make me move number was?
685?
625.
Wow.
So you want to talk about a hot market.
Yeah.
Like you could have made somebody move out of here
Right.
for $625, and then they go on the market a year later and they sell it for $685.
Yeah, that's just bonkers.
That is bonkers. Anything else you want to say about 54 Carroll?
No, I mean, what can you say?
Are we going to go with staggering again?
Yeah, we've been using staggering and traction a lot today.
Yeah, all right, let's try to stop using them starting right now.
Okay.
Okay, 271 Warren Street is a house that was very well attended when you talk about the open houses at this house.
It was staggering.
No, you can't do that. Sold for $705. My understanding wasn't even the highest offer that they received.
Interesting.
But clearly the best, and as it turns out, it got the job done.
So that's exhibit A of getting your price right in this kind of market, and it's just going to be, people in the driveway scratching offers off on the hood of their car in 20-degree weather.
And we talked about kind of the sales history of Carroll. This one had a bit of a sales history as well.
Yep.
Sold in 05 for $649. Sold in 2009, just 4 years later, for $590,000. Interesting.
That is interesting.
And then sells again in 2013 for $705, and we don't know kind of what went into the house between 2000.
Maybe something came out.
Yes, and then went back in.
Right.
But this one sells for $705. Looks like a good number for a walk-to-town location.
Yeah.
There's a premium for that.
And a nice sized lot, 12,000 square feet.
Yeah, located on Warren.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Good for them.
Okay, next up we're gonna visit a couple of projects, if you will, starting with a flip that took place on 60 Sylvan Road.
Yeah, and this one was sold by the owner was the agent, and it was priced high. And I think this is sometimes where you can exhibit the value of a real estate agent who's objective and removed from the property, because the owners tend to overvalue their properties, and it's not uncommon to see something like this where the owner is very proud of it. They did a lot of work to it, did a nice second floor addition. It's really a very nicely done home, but it just came out of the gates a little high and then had to be corrected.
Right, or maybe it wasn't so much they had an inflated sense of what it was worth. Maybe they were pricing it based on kind of what they put into it, and they were trying to shoot for a certain margin and weren't.
Which, as we all know,
is a recipe for disaster. But
is.
it's it's happened before. It'll happen again.
Yeah.
People can't help but think about what we put into this project and what we want to make. So let's take a shot at it, and it can figure out a way to kind of justify the sales price when at the end of the day, or the list price, when at the end of the day, it's not worth that much.
Right.
And so to their credit, they were pretty aggressive with their price reductions, and that tends to happen when you've got a monthly note that you need to be paying off.
Very
right?
true. Very true.
But 60 Sylvan Road, in a quote unquote desirable neighborhood, sells for $743. Anything else on this one?
No, I think that'll just about do it.
Okay, so that was one project. Another project here on 1746 Great Plain Ave. This was not a flip, but a new construction project. And if you remember, for last year, in what we're hearing, we talked about, can you get new construction for under $1 million? And this is an example that you can. In fact, you can get it for under $900,000.
Right. It's on Great Plain, so it's a busier road, so to speak, and it's a little bit, it's out by the Olin Woods. Would you consider this a part of the Olin Woods?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's maybe one of the bordering homes.
Right, but it's tricky because it's on Great Plain, but it's right as it kind of curves around, right? So getting in and out of this driveway is not easy.
That's true. I remember you mentioned that.
Slinging kind of from this Central Ave. In that direction.
Don't plant any bushes at the end of this driveway.
Right.
So it's under 900,000, yes, but it's under 3,000 square feet, which, is great. What we've been saying for months now is like we encourage people, build a smaller home, build a reasonably sized home, and that's how you keep your budget down. And that's what's happened here. The house, I think it still needs a little bit of love inside. We noticed that it's all painted one color, which is a way some developers go to kind of let those choices be made by the buyers, and perhaps they were. So it's what you would expect to get for this price with new construction, because the reality is, as we know, things cost what they cost, and to get the high-end finishings, you can't do it and still be in the 800,000.
Right. Well, my understanding is that the developer paid low fours for this lot, and so if that's the case, that's tight.
It is tight.
Very tight when you think about the cost to build a house. I don't think there was probably much money to be made on
Well,
this
there wasn't a
project.
refrigerator also. So I mean, that's the kind of thing, when you buy it for $860, you're going to be coming out of pocket for, $6,000 or whatever you want to spend on a refrigerator.
Right.
Or else you won't have one.
2,800 square feet, new construction for $860. I mean, I just don't think you're going to do much better in Needham. 35 Sutton Road is next up on our list, and I see a red font there.
Yeah, we know what that means.
Yeah, that means it's a deal of the month, and it's my deal of the month for the buyer. 35 Sutton Road. What did you think of that when you saw that?
Well, I agree with you. I think it is a good deal for the buyer. Quick turnaround, 16 days. It's almost 3,300 square feet, getting in for just over $1 million. Nicely updated, in a nice little neighborhood. The Sutton Road is it's one of those kind of close-knit neighborhoods like that we've been talking about. So I like it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you did as well.
Yeah, you're talking a lot about my deal of the month.
I was surprised that you
I know.
asked
Well,
me.
I thought it was going to just be a quick.
I'm sorry. I was trying to help.
I know. Thank you. What Ryan said. 35 Sutton Road, I really liked it. Walked through the broker tour, had a buyer looking in that price range, and I instantly thought they're going to love this. As it turns out, they didn't, but I'm sure others did, as it went for higher than list. But it was finished really nicely. Kind of felt like you were almost walking through new construction. Good sized lot. The backyard a little bit kind of graded down, sloped down a little bit. But I just thought it was a lot of house for, at the time, listed for under $1 million. And I like the location. It's a good little neighborhood. And walk to town. Do we consider this walk to town?
Yeah, you might want to pack a lunch.
Yeah, but
sure.
You can get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there a lot quicker than you would if you were walking from 36 Sterling Road.
That's
Can we
true.
agree on that?
We can.
And coincidentally, 36 Sterling Road is next up on our list. Ryan.
6 days on the market, over 4,200 square feet. The house was built in 2009. And that 4,200 is just on 2 levels, because the basement and attic are unfinished.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it's a big house.
It is big indeed.
I think this is another little neighborhood where I think I've been sort of shocked at how much activity's been in there.
Yeah.
And how well houses have done there. Because I feel like it's sort of, captured between Greendale, Great Plain, and 128.
Agreed.
But there's some nice homes there, and there's some opportunities for getting into Needham at reasonable prices.
I think the fact that it's Broad Meadow doesn't hurt.
True.
Right? That probably has a lot to do with it.
Yep.
And, what do they say about the traffic noise? That when you live on the street,
It's just kind of a din.
yeah, you don't hear it anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so,
You definitely say that if you live on the street.
yeah. And you say it if you're trying to sell the house.
That's true also. But, that one I think did well.
Yeah, I agree. 12625. I think that's a good number for that
Yeah.
house, especially in light of the fact that it sold for 1145 back in 09.
Right.
15 Wilson Lane is next up as we go in a completely different direction geographically.
Yeah, and this one I almost want to put a big disclaimer on it, because in my mind there's got to be a story here, and this was a late addition to the closings, because it closed right at the end of the month and it didn't actually post until a few days into February, so we weren't really overly prepared for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tried to do a little digging on it to find out what contributed to this sale price, because I think there needs to be a story here. This is definitely it's a new construction. It was sold direct, so there wasn't a buyer agent involved. But selling for 1.3, the house wasn't necessarily finished. It doesn't appear that there's conventional financing involved, so there could be a story here other than that this house is worth 1.3. Because if it is, then this is my deal of the month for the buyer, all day long and twice on Sunday.
Right. I agree. I mean, it's a lot of space, and when you think about a house like this with the 4,500 square feet, the 5-bed, 3.5 baths, the side entry garage on the quiet street.
Right.
You look at it, and on paper you think you're talking 1.4s.
Easily.
Yeah. So
And
I
to
would
be
agree.
it was on the market for 76 days, but it really, to sell at this number when the house wasn't finished, I can't believe that would be
Right.
just on its own. This is a straight up deal. And
Well,
that's
there were 2 lots. There are 2 lots for sale in Wilson Lane too, right?
Well, there's a couple of lots there that are may or may not be available.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's necessarily
explains why.
Right.
No, I know, but it's just...
We're going to cut that out.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So.
Next up on our list is 180 Washington Avenue as we go to the Mitchell School District. This is a walk to Mitchell location. Sold for $1,435, and the house doesn't look quite like that, right? It's in color.
Right. Yeah.
That's a drawing. Oh, that's what it is.
It's a drawing. It's a rendering.
Okay, got it.
This was a tough lot from just a configuration standpoint. It was elevated from the street, and it also gets really narrow in the back. It becomes pie shaped.
Mm-hmm.
So given that, and I mean the house that was built there to sort of fit it, I think this is a pretty good sale number.
Yeah.
It's we didn't get inside. It was sold during construction, so this wasn't one that was toured. But I think the developer would be happy with this deal, and from that standpoint, just given the conditions that they had to build in.
What are your thoughts on referring to a listing as located in the most desired Needham Mitchell neighborhood?
I mean, it's
Bold.
aggressive. It's aggressive.
It's bold.
It's definitely up for debate. Although, I mean, I would agree that it's a very good spot and a very desirable spot. But when you throw the word "most" in there, you're basically turning your back on the rest of the town. Huh?
Right, and plus you would arguably need to cite that, right? Like based on...
Exactly.
Right, so it's
a little subjective.
Right, it's definitely desirable though,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yep.
And here we are at our big seller, 53 Pinewood Road. And lo and behold, Ryan, as we look at that slide, what does that say at the bottom? Should I talk about this one?
I was going to turn it over to you. I mean, I think this is my deal of the month for the buyer. I think this is a great location. You could throw the desired neighborhood tag on this one too. This is the same builder. So when I compare it to 180 Washington, it's a better lot. It's on a really nice street, and it's a much nicer looking home on the outside. The square footage is very similar, although in Pinewood it includes a basement, whereas Washington the square footage is on the two main floors. But okay, that's fine with me. Give me a smaller footprint, a nicely finished basement, as opposed to a sprawling first and second floor that doesn't grab me as much from an aesthetic standpoint. Mm-hmm. I really liked Pinewood. Again, also sold during construction, so I haven't seen necessarily the insides, the finished work, the detail, that type of thing. But just looking at it on paper and comparing it to Washington, knowing it's the same builder, I think if I'm the buyer on Pinewood, even though they paid a little more, has a better product at the end.
Right, they have an extra bath as well. But the question is, would you have felt that it was worthy of your deal of the month had the 180 Washington Ave sale registered in the same month?
I would. I think this house could easily be a 1.5 house, given its location. The lot's not huge. But still, I mean, this is in this market. This product on this street, on one of the ladder streets, 1.5s. I wouldn't have surprised me at all if that house was 1.5s.
So maybe they could have held out for more.
Possibly.
MLS.
Possibly.
Okay, so that concludes our tour through the 11 homes that sold in Needham in the month of January per MLS, that's single family sales. We're now going to take a peek at the market snapshot as we take a look at kind of how things lay out. This is as of February 5th, 2013, and that's a good sign. The single family listings are starting to inch their way up again, as we would expect, right, Ryan? Mm-hmm. And then same deal for under agreement. In fact, that's not an inch up, that's a significant leap from 26 under agreement to 47. So somebody's going to be busy the next couple of months preparing the slides for the show. Safe to say?
Somebody might.
Yeah. What else do you have to say about this slide?
The average list price still holding in the 1.5 area. Average days on market, 116 days. I think that's still good. I mean, you're talking about under 3 months to turn over the inventory. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then the number that you alluded to at the beginning of the show, the average list price per square foot at $339, which is
crazy.
Below the average sales price.
That's crazy. I mean, and it's not even close.
Right.
Like we're at $354. The average sales price for January, we're at $339. I mean,
should everybody just immediately raise their prices?
Right, or should everything just sell today?
Right.
I think what that
we better get out there.
What that tells me is that you have if you look at the average listing price, right? So that's about $500,000 higher than the average sales price. So the higher you get, the bigger you get with regards to these homes, the lower the dollars per square foot. That has a lot to do with it. But by and large, it looks like perhaps there are some houses that seem to be priced well on the market. So maybe these people have been looking for a while. Need to kind of look back at what's out there.
Right.
we are now going to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Huh?
Why not?
Last year we
We're
had a
here.
segment we called What We're Hearing, but this one we're going to call, what are we going to call it?
Call it what we're seeing.
What We're Seeing. It's a new element, and this is what happens when you only have 11 sales.
Right.
We got to get creative.
That's right.
And we definitely did it. And so what we're seeing, not only hearing, but seeing, is that, and I'll give you credit for kind of coining this phrase, the 7s are the new 6s. So what does that mean, Ryan?
Well, I think we're just seeing the upward trending of the pricing and the home values in town, and where in the past we'd seen a lot of capes and colonials in the 1,500 to 1,700 square foot range, seeing those properties go in the 6s, and now those properties are going in the 7s.
Yeah.
And they're going with multiple offers in 3 days.
Right.
And I think I don't think that you're going to see it shift backwards from that. I think that's the new norm.
Yeah, and the evidence is there. You go to these open houses right now, to these houses in this price range, and it's just borderline chaos.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of people coming kind of from all over, seemingly a lot of people coming from closer to Boston who are now wanting to, venture out a little bit. And Needham is a very popular destination right now. And as crazy as it sounds, $700,000 is the kind of the entry-level home in Needham, that's a lot of money to get into a town.
Yeah, and it wasn't too long ago that we were having this conversation about the 5s.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
And now 5s, you put a house on the market for 5s, and look out, you're
Right.
going to have 300 people there.
Or it's basically a buddy in 128.
Right.
So just some evidence and some examples of what it is that we're talking about. And this is all really recent stuff. These are all houses that are currently under agreement, that have gone under agreement in the past, 2 weeks?
Yep.
And sorted by days on market, but don't be fooled. I mean, some of these days on market are artificially high, like 35 Laurel Drive. They got, I'm told, 16 offers.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's
it was,
bananas.
So
And
it basically
16
took
offers.
11 days to sort through all the paperwork.
Right.
To use a word that you don't like, but starting at 14 Barrett Street, this was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath Cape, and it was, I went to just go take a look, and I had to park 5 houses down during the open house.
Right.
So you got multiple offers there. 36 Mellon, this just went under
Yep.
agreement, the day before the taping of the show, so we don't have a whole lot of information, but, this was a house, I think we both agree that if you looked at a year ago, you're looking 6s.
Oh yeah, I mean it was basically just a redone version of a house that sold, a year ago.
Right, and then 5 days later. Laurel, we talked about, 16 offers, and it was a madhouse, and this is a house that basically it didn't have a bathroom on the first floor.
Right.
And a lot of steps to go up to the front door, but I mean,
But nice house.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like new construction when you're in the first floor.
Yeah.
It was beautifully done.
Yeah, but still 6s a year ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And then Ridgeway Avenue was one that was on for 19 days, and then Central Ave is to me tells as much as anything. This is a house that's on the market for 108 days, doesn't have a price reduction. Just you're thinking, why is this house not getting reduced? But in this new environment, all of a sudden this wave of people seems to be coming to town, and boom, there it goes, under agreement. And there are other ones, hopefully, to follow.
Yeah, we might be adding one to this list.
Yeah,
huh?
maybe.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's the 7s are the new 6s. So Ryan, as we kind of wrap up the show, if anybody would like to reach out to us, call us, email us, how would they get a hold of us?
And before we give the number again, and why people are reaching out to us. I mean, a lot of times people have questions on something that we've discussed, or they want to talk to us about their home, or we also provide the design build services that Rob mentioned. So our company really handles basically all facets of your real estate needs.
Yep.
And
or if they want to have some input on something that they want us to cover in the show.
That's true also.
The possibilities are endless.
Endless. So call us at 781-707-6564. I do know the number.
Yeah.
And you can also email us at rob.ryan@hawthornere.com.
Very quickly, before we sign off, we've talked about things are going to heat up. You still feeling anything else you want to talk about as you see moving forward? You got 20 seconds. Go.
Gosh, now I'm nervous. You put me on the spot. I
Go.
want to get out
Where's
there.
this market
and start
headed?
doing some real estate. It's going up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is going up. I agree. We just need the temperatures to start also going up.
Right.
We need some of the snow to melt.
Right.
But for now, that'll do it for What's My House Worth. For Ryan McDonald, I am Rob Tickton. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you out there very soon.